Alright guys, today we are going to work for the first time in our logic packet, and we're going to start looking at symbolic logic. You should all have received a packet. The packet is very big. You will be getting exactly one packet from me, so please don't lose it. It's very important that you keep it. Okay, tonight's homework is like it says right here, pages 7 to 9 in the logic packet. The logic packet has little page numbers at the bottom. There's two pages on one piece of paper. So if you can see, the first page has 7 and 8 on it. You're going to do 7, 8, and 9. And finish it up if you do not finish it up in class. Okay, here is my warm-up for today. Identify the hypothesis and the conclusion of the following statement. If today is Friday, then tomorrow is Saturday. We learned yesterday that the hypothesis are all the words that come after the word if, and the conclusion are all the words that come after the then. So based on this, my hypothesis would be today is Friday, and my conclusion would be tomorrow is Saturday. We didn't get a chance to answer the next question to touch on that, but converse, based on your textbook, and we're in section 2.2 of your textbook, is when you actually switch the hypothesis and the conclusion. So from that, we can see that the converse would just be if tomorrow is Saturday, then today is Friday. All right. Finally, last part of our warm-up. Put the following conditional into an Euler diagram. If we have a test, then I will study. Yesterday we learned about those Euler diagrams. They were kind of like a big box. And inside the box was a circle, so we're going to make that here. Alright, I'm going to kind of do it right over here. Inside the box, we put the conclusion, which is I will study. I'm just writing study. And inside the circle that's inside the box, we put the hypothesis, which in this case would be test. Let me change pens here. Test. Whoa, that's very hard to read. However, you can see that there are lots of reasons that you might study, hence the box. One of those reasons is a test, hence the circle. All right, here are the answers to your homework questions. Like I just said, we did not get a chance to talk about converse, and I believe that came up in your homework. Number 9 should have been straightforward, turning that Euler diagram into a conditional statement. Number 10, you had to identify the hypothesis and conclusion from that statement they gave you. And once again, number 11, you had to make an Euler diagram from the conditional. Number 12 asked you whether or not the converse was true. Well, the converse would switch those two. So the converse would say, if one lives in the United States, then one lives in Ohio. And that's not true, due to the fact that we live in the United States and we do not live in Ohio, last time I checked. So that is a false statement. It just shows us that sometimes the converse will be true and sometimes it won't. And we will talk about that a lot later. 13, moving on. If you have a tulip, then you have a flower would be your conditional statement. Here in 17, you were asked what's the hypothesis and the conclusion. The hypothesis is it is snowing in Chicago. The conclusion is it is snowing in Illinois. Next, for the converse, once again, we have to switch those two. So you switch the conclusion and the hypothesis. So it would be if it is snowing in Illinois, then it is snowing in Chicago. That would be the converse. Okay, and 24 and 25. If an animal is a mouse, then the animal is a rodent. Mickey is a mouse. Therefore, we can assume that Mickey is a rodent based on this Euler diagram. 27, if someone lives in Norway, then he or she lives in Scandinavia. Ingrid lives in Norway, therefore we can assume that she lives in Scandinavia. If you have any questions more on the homework, please feel free to hold on to those until Monday. All right, looking at page 7 in your logic packet, which is on the front page. It's on the left-hand side. Statements. Logic is built around a system of statements, okay? And in logic, we have our own language and symbols that we use to make statements. The simple sentences just have a little bit of a concept. That would be like the hypothesis or the conclusion separately. Those are we call simple sentences. The example right here in your packet is that birds can fly. That is a simple sentence. Compound sentences are where we take the simple sentences and we put them together with words like and or and etc. But we really use and or. An example of a compound sentence would be birds can fly and fish can swim. This is one simple sentence joined to another simple sentence. We can use these compound sentences and we can use symbols instead of using those connecting words. These are the symbols that you need to know. A conjunction, which really is just a fancy word for and, looks like this upwards arrow. I like to think that it looks like an A with missing its bar, so that's how I remember it. A disjunction looks like this V. It's the opposite of the upwards arrow. So if it's and, it's an upwards arrow that looks like an A. If it's a V, it's a downwards arrow. The conditional statements that we already learned, the if-then statements, are this arrow. The hypothesis goes before the arrow, and the conclusion goes after the arrow. Biconditional statements are what we call if and only if statements. It's like a conditional that goes forwards and backwards. Negations just mean the opposite. So if I put this little tilde in front of a simple sentence, I mean the complete opposite of it. And these 3 dots mean therefore. Okay. So let's look at our first example. We are today only going to focus on translating simple sentences into words and then backwards from words into simple sentences. Okay, here we have example number 1. If it rains, then the grass will grow. And that is just 2 simple sentences. It rains and the grass will grow. Our hypothesis and our conclusion. Okay, let's look at the first problem. We need to identify the hypothesis. That's the same word as premise. Hypothesis and the conclusion of if it is a rose, then it is a flower. All right, the premise or the hypothesis is what comes after the if part. So it is a rose is going to be my hypothesis, and what comes after the then is the conclusion. So therefore the then is it is a flower. All right, here's the part that's kind of new. We are going to take these sentences, these simple sentences that have been made for us, P, Q, and R, and we're going to translate these words into symbols. So the first one we've done for you. If I want it to snow, which is the letter Q, then I do not need new boots. Well, we are told that R means I need new boots. So what we want to say is the opposite of R. And we want to link these 2 simple sentences together with the symbol that means if, then. And we learned on the other page that that symbol is an arrow. Today you're allowed to use that little sheet that tells you what they mean, but tomorrow and for the next days, you need to have those memorized. All right, the next one. I do not want it to snow, or I love to ski. Okay, I want it to snow, we learned, was Q. But this is the opposite of Q, so it's negative Q. I love to ski is the letter P. And we want to link these two together with the word or the symbol that means or. And looks like an A, but or is the opposite of it, so it's a downwards arrow. So our final answer is negative Q or P. All right, next one. Starts with this really strange thing. It is false that. That's like a big negative. So we're going to replace all of these words with just the negative symbol. And this whole statement that comes after it is negative. So I'm going to rewrite the statement in symbols. I love to ski, which is P, or I want it to snow. So now we read it as, it is false that, this whole statement, I love to ski, or I want it to snow. And there you go, we got it right. Okay, so let's look at the next couple of problems. We're going to convert these compound sentences to words using those P, Q, and R above. So here I have a squiggle P, double arrow R. Okay. Squiggle P is the opposite of P, and P says I love to ski. So this is I do not love to ski. This double arrow stands for if and only if. I do not love to ski if and only if R. I need new boots. So this expression, this compound sentence, turns into I do not love to ski if and only if I need new boots. Okay, take a second to translate the next one. Squiggle R, upwards arrow, squiggle Q. Squiggle R means I need new boots, but the opposite. So I do not need new boots. And squiggle Q, I do not want it to snow. I don't know who would say this, but that's what it means. I do not need new boots, and I do not want it to snow. All right, next one. Anytime you put this squiggle outside parentheses, you start the expression with, it is false that. This arrow means if then. So if the first thing, that's the hypothesis, then the next thing, that's the conclusion. So if it is false that, P or Q. If it is false that I love to ski or I want it to snow, then R. I need new boots. All right, this was definitely a lot. On the next page, which is page 9 by my calculations, you need to take all of these statements and turn them into either symbols if they are words or words if they are symbols. Okay? So what I need you guys to do is I need you to work on this right now. And if you finish it, that's great. Then you have no homework and have a fantastic weekend. And if you don't finish it, that's not good. And you need to finish it up for homework. And we will talk about it on Monday. Have a great weekend, guys. Bye.